There's a DOJ Google breakup? You're kidding. What? 2 hours ago? The Department of Justice indicates it's considering a Google breakup following monopoly ruling? What the An actual breakup? The remedies necessary to prevent and restrain monopoly maintenance can include contract requirements, separating Chrome, Play, and Android. Dude, a breakup of Android from Google would be crazy. This is what I thought they were gonna do. So this part I thought was a guarantee, which is that until now, Google has paid a few billion a year to make Google search the default on iPhone and Samsung, which basically makes them an untouchable monopoly, right? If you're the default on the two most popular phones, untouchable. And no startup could ever afford to pay the few billion, right? They could never challenge Google's price. So it's a done deal, GG, they get locked in forever. And so the DOJ talked about that a lot in the antitrust suit, and that's what I thought was gonna get canceled. Like you cannot have an exclusive agreement where you pay a bunch of money to iPhone and Samsung and be default. But if they're gonna actually break up the company, we haven't had an antitrust breakup in a minute. That would be crazy. The most likely outcome is they'll do the exclusive agreements. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's more of a threat. It's probably more of like a threat, so they just take this. It's like, hey, if you try to stretch this out, Google, we'll go whole hog. Dude, it's so wild because if search gets split off from other parts of Google, the other parts will die outside of YouTube. Everything else at Google is money losing and subsidized by search. What happens to shares if they break it up? Honestly, if you own stock in a company that gets broken up, historically, it's good for you. Let's say you own, 10 shares of Google and they break it up. You get shares in both companies. You get shares in the broken up companies. You're owner in both, and they usually both grow. They usually both grow. It's not a down. Shareholders often benefit. Like if I'm an Amazon shareholder, which I am, I still own some Amazon, and they split off AWS to a separate company, I would own shares in AWS and Amazon, and both are likely to grow. It's not even bad. It's the only people that benefit from these gigantic conglomerated monstrosity tech companies are like the managerial class. It's like the CEO and his cronies. You already said one of the splits would die. I'm saying if they broke off search from the rest of Google. I'm thinking if they break off Android or YouTube, those are both sustainable companies on their own. That would be great. And Google search would still be the dominant player. So they'd have two titan tech companies. If they split, who owns it? Same people, shareholders, I guess. It just splits the shares. But they're now, separate companies. They don't have the same CEO. They have different goals. They can't collude legally. Yeah, man, I'd love to invest in just YouTube. That'd be awesome. Would YouTube been going to search? That's the idea. The idea is like, if YouTube was a separate company and they were as powerful as they are now, and they're like, how do we expand? How do we grow our revenue by a few $100 billion? They might think we should get into search. People spend a lot of time on YouTube. YouTube's where, the homepage of the internet for a lot of people. We'll get into search. And Google might say, okay, well, we don't have a video platform. We should get into video. And now all of a sudden they're competing. And all of a sudden, if you're a creator, for example, you have two options that are both competing for your dollar, for your content. So you might get better ad splits. But right now, the creators have to just take it. There's so many situations in this economy where there's one dominant monopoly power and everyone has to take it. Whether it's consumers, whether it's creators, whether it's producers, whether it's small businesses, they'll have to just take it. There's no other alternative. You can't go somewhere else. That's why competition is so good. Who can compete with YouTube? Dailymotion? Nobody. I'm saying, but no. There's no way to try because none of Google would try if YouTube didn't exist. Or I'm sorry, if YouTube wasn't owned by them. They hadn't been able to buy it. But TikTok is competing with YouTube, by the way. TikTok is making great headway. That's why YouTube's scared so much and started to pivot to shorts. Since they would theoretically have the same shoulders when it means considers to create a competitor. The ownership class, the managerial class will be required to divest. As part of a breakup, you'd have like the CEO of Google not be able to own a bunch of shares of the Google competitor that just got created. The regular people would get shares of both, which would be awesome. But like the executives running the company wouldn't be able to. So they would sell off their stake and then we'd have two different companies competing. What happened to the dock worker strike? They settled. Dock workers settled for a 62% raise over the next few years. And they're going to renegotiate automation next year after the election. So it's not such a big couldn't Google be better off not having to pay the default? Yeah, well, that's everything. That's like, dude, so many companies think like this, really short term, where it's like imagine if Coca-Cola tomorrow goes, everybody knows what Coke is. We spend all this money on advertising. Everybody already knows. Let's just stop. We save a lot of money this year. And they'd be right. If Coca-Cola stopped paying for billboards and commercials and everything tomorrow, you wouldn't even feel it until later. until over time, it starts to drift out of the public consciousness and people that are like young people growing up without Coke being ever present don't care. And then suddenly you lose that advantage that you've had forever and ever and ever. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's kind of short-term minded. And Google knows that like, hey, If we stop paying billions to Apple, everyone's still going to use Google for sure. But maybe one guy comes along with a great app that's like search for Apple and it just goes viral. And then all of a sudden, wait, what the fuck? We're losing market share? And you know what I'm saying? It's just, they don't want that. They don't want that. So that's why they've been playing. They've been doing everything to make sure there's no challenge, no threat. Couldn't you just be reactive? You know, Blockbuster tried to be reactive to Netflix, right? Things move fast. It can be too late. It's hard to make, you know, when you're a big, massive company, you're a really slow ship to turn. You get a lot of bloat. Some companies are good at being reactive. Apple is a company that's really good at being reactive. They don't really innovate that much. Under Tim Cook, anyway. Under Tim Cook, they stopped innovating. They just say, hey, if something new comes out, we're going to take it, we're going to polish it up, and we're going to put it out with that Apple spin. And it works, and they make a ton of money. They're a fast follower, and they've really built it into their DNA under Tim Cook, and they have good execution and good marketing, and that lets them be slow. But most companies can't do that. And even Apple, it's starting to get, you know, I mean, iPhone sales slowed down for this new one. Any Elon news? Elon did an interview with Tucker Carlson where he said, if Trump loses, I'm fucked. I thought that was really funny because he's business-wise. That's why he's so all in on it, dude. He's legitimately paying people in Pennsylvania. Any swing state voter that signs up gets money. That's crazy. Isn't that illegal? I mean, I guess the loophole is that he's not telling you who to vote for, but it's like you're getting through it from Elon Musk's. Isn't he getting cooked by Trump with his electric cars? It's not really, it's like, so I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but hopefully I saved this. There's a guy, so I read a lot of financial predictions from people, and one thing I like to do is go back and see if any of them held up, you know? And then once you see somebody's hold up multiple times, you're like, wow, that's a person I should listen to. And there was a guy who, among all of the analysts back in 2021, predicted Tesla's earnings per share and vehicle sales most accurately, in that they would not grow exponentially. Almost everybody was saying it's going to go to them. By 24, they'll be 3x bigger, 10x bigger. Anyway, this guy goes, not only are they not going to grow exponentially, they're barely going to grow linearly. It's going to be almost flat. And he was right. They barely grew. His prediction was the most correct about Tesla. And this guy just did a sum of the parts valuation. I wish I could find it. Let me see if I can show it to you. It's a really amazing way of looking at it. Well, I can describe to you what it was, right? So basically, Tesla is worth $750 billion. And he broke that down by what each piece actually mapped to on Tesla's balance sheet. And it was like 25 billion is actual car sales. 82 billion is like government tax credits. 30 billion is like the energy business, the auto servicing business, whatever. And then 542 billion is hopium. It's like, if you actually break it out, 5 billion is cash on balance sheet. So like 500 billion is essentially just the market valuing, the possible future of robo-taxis and the robots, autonomous robots. And so if all that doesn't come to fruition, I mean, the company is so jarringly overvalued. Even if the cars are fine, it's way more valuable than it should be. And I think he recognizes this, either on like a very visceral or at least like on a dumb level. He understands it. And I think he needs Trump to win, to like juice those government subsidies, become the head of a Department of Government Efficiency and give breaks to Tesla. I mean, there's a clear financial incentive. If Kamala wins short Tesla, I would never advocate shorting because it's too volatile. But like if I was a professional trader, full-time trader, had to run a long short book for a hedge fund, I think that's a good thesis. I think if Kamala wins, looking closely at Tesla, but I would never say it for a chatter. You or me, we're not professionals. Never short. There's too much at risk. Too much you could lose. What's the analyst's name? If I knew his name, I'd tell you. If I find it, I'll show you. We can do this again sometime. I'll find it.